This episode of The Trusted Advisor is sponsored by Bluestar. For Bluestar, SaaS means solution as a service, not software as a service, and with their hybrid SaaS program, they have embodied just that. Bluestar's hybrid solutions as a service provides you with flexible financing options to fit any business model. In Bluestar's suite of offerings, you can bundle your software, hardware, service contracts, installation, training, and more into one low payment for your end user. And you can get paid any way you see fit, monthly, one lump sum, or a mix of both. That's right, solutions can be paid for upfront and in full through the more traditional CapEx method or throughout a stint of monthly payments by the OpEx route. Rip and replace and subscription-based financing plans are also available to offer up to your customers. What's more, you can offer customers 3-month deferred payments to help during these difficult financial times. Partner today with Bluestar to optimize your business needs. For more information, visit bluestarinc.com. That's bluestarinc.com.
Hello and welcome to The Trusted Advisor, a channel-focused podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. I'm Brianna Moriarty of Star Micronics, and I'm your guest host for this podcast. This is a special podcast for the RSPA NextGEN community. Thank you so much for joining us. On today's episode, we'll be talking about what technologies and solutions will outlast the pandemic. We have our 4 special guests featured. We have Matt Shaw. He's a production solution specialist at Postec, a longtime reseller member of the RSPA, and Matt has been a member of Postec team for 11 years. Hey, Matt, thanks for being here.
Hey, Brianna, thank you.
We also have Linda Ebrahimian. She's in her 5th year as the marketing manager at RSPA ISV member Cyberlink. Linda has worked in the digital and software world for the past decade. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
We also have Justin Zeigler. He is the Director of Product Strategy and Marketing at Datacap, another longtime RSPA member. Justin has been part of Datacap team for almost 15 years. Glad you could join us today.
Thanks, Brianna. Thanks for having me.
And finally, we have Andrew Faulkner, who is the owner and CEO of the RSPA VAR member, Staley Technologies, a solution provider headquartered in Little Rock, Arkansas. Prior to purchasing Staley, he owned and operated Advanced POS Solutions. Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brianna.
So to kick things off today, the world has been crazy this past almost year now due to the COVID-19 crisis, and a lot of people have shifted their focus to provide specific solutions for the pandemic for retailers and restaurants trying to survive this crisis. So let's first start talking about what solutions have you added to your lineup to try to adapt to the COVID-19 crisis. Linda, how about we start with you?
Thank you. So just a little bit about FaceMe. So FaceMe is the world's top cross-platform AI facial recognition engine. So we have had our facial recognition SDK with facial detection and recognition. And when the pandemic hit, we really understood the importance of health checks, mask wearing, and social distancing to kind of go back to our new reality with the pandemic. So we came out with a solution, FaceMe Health. So FaceMe Health is an integrated solution for mask detection, authentication, and temperature measurement. It offers contactless pandemic control measures that are required across a wide range of facilities, whether it's a retail store, a restaurant, or a hotel. So when someone enters into a building, there can be a kiosk there with FaceMe Health on it, and it could check if someone is wearing a mask, if they're wearing it properly, if they have a fever. And if they do, for example, have a fever, they're not wearing their mask properly, an alert can be sent to personnel to go ahead and take next steps. We understand the importance of contactless experiences and kind of getting everybody back to enjoying their life in a safe and healthy way.
Great. Matt, how about you guys? What have you done to kind of shift your focus to offer solutions to help through the pandemic?
One of the main things that we've seen a growth in with our products specifically is really just the cloud products in general. The shift from legacy point of sale to cloud-based, moving your solutions to as a service, something that's a monthly payment, something that feels and is more flexible, something that offers cloud solutions, things that bring in technologies that engage guests more directly, especially during this time with things like online ordering and the ability to continue to sell your product as a restaurant, whether the guest is sitting down at a table inside, maybe they're sitting outside, or they're coming by to pick it up as a catered solution or as just a meal for dinner that night. So we've seen a huge shift in that over these past several months, and it's something that is it was already there in the market, the shift from on-prem to cloud, if you will, but the growth in that has been explosive.
Yeah, I have to agree. We've seen a huge uptick in our cloud printing solutions as well. So with that said, a lot of these solutions that people are coming up with, we're trying to think of ways, they're making us money now, we're helping solve problems now, but how do we continue to promote that into the future? So Justin, can I hear from you about what your plans are about solutions and technologies being offered that won't just help through the pandemic, but will outlast it?
Sure. I mean, I think any kind of form of digital interaction between a consumer and a merchant is going to have staying power. I think one of the silver linings, if you consider a silver lining as part of the pandemic, is that all the consumers, or at least a large subset of consumers, have been kind of trained on these new systems. So you have guys who are now, or you have cardholders, consumers who are now really actively engaging with their merchants through above store channels like QR code-based payments, online ordering, buy online, pick up in store. So you see a lot of movement toward that and an acceleration toward that. That was happening pre-pandemic, but post-pandemic, you're going to have a much larger subset of users that are going to be not only using it and trained to use that type of stuff and feel comfortable using those type of systems, but also having the expectation that's built by these tier one merchants that is going to trickle down to small to medium-sized businesses. So now you're going to have consumers and cardholders who are expecting to have this kind of frictionless payments experience, whether it's card on file, in-store and above-store payments, shared tokens, so that you can have a seamless return, and anything like that. That they're going to start to expect this functionality, not only from the Walmarts and the Best Buys and Targets, but also from their local pizza shop and the mom and pop retail store. So I think you're going to start to see merchants get pressured a little bit to start to absorb some of these solutions. So we're seeing an accelerated adoption on our side, specifically online ordering, delivery, curbside pickup, consumer-driven pay at the table, more focused on QR code-based payments, text to pay, that sort of thing. And then the one, I'll say, trend that it was happening pre-pandemic that is kind of accelerated post-pandemic is going to be kiosks. A lot of these large merchants that have implemented kiosks have seen significant growth in average ticket size when you're either ordering on a kiosk or when you're ordering online. So these merchants are kind of incentivized to push these solutions such that they're pushing the merchant in that direction so that they can, one, pick up that average ticket size, have a better customer experience, have less overhead in the store because you have less cashiers, less salespeople required when you're able to kind of generate this direct connection with a consumer, and you're able to have this data-driven experience as well. Because now when somebody's interacting with you as a merchant in an online presence, now you're getting all these data points on them. You can market to them. You can build loyalty platforms around that type of transactions. You really can't do with a legacy type of cash only or credit card in store scenario. So I think you're going to see a rush on both sides where both merchants are going to push in this direction, and consumers are going to drive merchants who haven't yet moved in that direction just by kind of requiring that type of user experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. Something that we've kind of had as our ongoing motto here at Star is that, challenge creates opportunity, and COVID is obviously a huge challenge, but the type of technology being developed really gives a lot of these merchants that might not be in a great place right now a lot of tools to better their business in the future. Andrew, did you have anything to add to that?
I agree with Matt and Justin. I think we've we've seen all the same acceleration that they have. I think the whole do-it-yourself mentality that COVID's pushed onto the consumer, whether it's mobile payments, digital menus, online ordering with pickup at the store, with using a kiosk maybe for online ordering pickup, just all that entire mentality shifting from the merchant kind of holding the hand of the consumer throughout the entire process is completely shifted now to, what can the merchant provide so the consumer can do it himself or herself. So it's a total shift to that.
Right. And Linda, I'm really curious to hear from you, as a company that's producing temperature and mask screening devices, how do you expect these solutions to continue past COVID?
So kind of piggybacking off of what Justin and Andrew talked about too, like a personalized shopping experiences. So technologies that really outlast the pandemic are going to be ones that enable compelling and interactive personal experiences. So one is, for example, a smart interactive digital sign. It can be used in a mall or in an office to gather demographics, understand your customers and their shopping behavior, and deliver real-time customizable ads as well. Retailers and advertisers can use this to analyze the data and go ahead and enhance those products and services. I think they kind of already mentioned the contactless interactive kiosks and syncing these into different loyalty programs that companies have as well. So for example, if I'm going into a coffee shop and I have a loyalty program connected to that, when I enter and if I didn't place my order online, it can a pop-up can happen like, hey Linda, do you want to order your vanilla latte again? And I can nod and say yes or no, and then select something else. So just kind of creating, like using AI to enhance the customer experience, I think is going to basically stay beyond the pandemic. It'll help the merchants and it'll give this experience to the customers that it's personalized specific to them.
For sure. So with all that said, we know that some of the retailers and restaurants, although we kind of look at it as a great time for them to upgrade their technology, especially the SMBs, they might be struggling a little bit. So what's really affordable for these merchants to be purchasing right now? What should they be prioritizing in upgrading their technology? Andrew, do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, I think, the technology out there, there's some extremes where, a lot of the kiosks are out of the reach of a lot of SMBs from just an affordability standpoint. But a lot of the digital menu technology, the mobile payment technology packaged with, credit cards and different means of how to, how the reseller charges for that. A lot of that's affordable today. And the manufacturers have done a great job of making that more affordable. I think even, when you look at just the foundation of a lot of this stuff is the networking within the restaurant or the retail space. A lot of the network infrastructure is pretty old. So just upgrading Wi-Fi is huge right now. I think a lot of the technology we've already talked about and the technology that we're going to be getting, that we'll be getting into next year, a lot of it's based off of the wireless infrastructure within the building itself. So a lot of the cost of those types of upgrades has gotten a lot more reasonable, I'd say, in the last couple of years. And so I see a huge uptick in wireless upgrades within a store, and then a lot of this mobile and contactless payment and ordering technology being affordable next year as well.
Definitely. And Matt, being a VAR, what are your thoughts on that? What kind of advice or consultation are you giving to merchants on affordability and prioritizing technology?
Well, yeah, just like Andrew said, the ability or the cost involved with upgrading just your infrastructure in your business alone, that cost coming down now opens up the door to these as a service models. Not only does your software have to be as a service, but you could potentially make your entire system, all of your hardware as a service. And when you talk about affordability, nothing's really cheaper than just paying a small amount up front to have a new system programmed and installed. And to have that new system be, so heavily tied with the financial institution, I mean, just being financial technology, it's linked to payments intrinsically now. So you get, along with that, you pull through with that, those e-commerce solutions, those contactless payment solutions, even kiosk solutions, depending on software providers. So really pulling all of that through, it's never been a better time to actually invest a little bit of money to get a whole lot more out of what your point of sale system is doing for your business. It's really something that when we go and talk to our customers, especially our existing customer base, let alone other customers out there that have been around for a long time, we look at it from a standpoint now of really truly guest engagement. How are you going to engage your guests, whether it's right now when you really can't, you have to do it from a 6-foot distance, or 6 months from now, hopefully, when we're starting to move back into a world of let's all go back out and eat. Well, what are those technologies that we just deployed over the past 7-8 months now during COVID, and how do we leverage those moving forward? Is this going to drive additional business? Is this going to open additional streams of revenue? Am I going to maintain those streams of revenue? Is it viable for me to do so when the cost of my labor goes up? So those are all fun little challenges, and really it's just kind of it's a puzzle that's slightly different for everybody, but at the end of the day, it all kind of works out that they're all going to be sitting there with a lot more technology in their lap for a significantly smaller investment than they made 5-6 years ago.
Agreed. Well, now would be a great time to pause for a moment and let our listeners and viewers know that an RSPA membership has never been more valuable or more affordable. The RSPA has expanded its FAR and ISV member benefits to include discounts on health insurance, HR services, office supplies, and shipping. Also, RSPA members have access to a legal advisor, security advisor, sales coach, and a VAR and ISV business advisor. That's all included in your annual RSPA membership, which for resellers starts at just $250 a year. That's 68 cents a day for these high-value services. Accelerate your success by joining the RSPA today. Also, thank you to our sponsors who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsors are Bluestar, Heartland, ScanSource, and Shift4 Payments. To receive the benefits of an RSPA membership or RSPA sponsorship, email membership@gorspa.org. Finally, don't forget to save the date for Retail Now 2021, July 25th through the 27th in Nashville. Retail Now is where the industry meets. All right, we're back. So Justin, speaking about some of the new solutions that are being developed for COVID, what's going to outlast COVID, what are some of the technologies that you see are being kind of set aside or are no longer needed in this kind of new world?
I think to echo, Matt and Andrew's point is that you really want to be able to move anything you can to SaaS, and that becomes affordable for a merchant. So anything that was traditionally, a capital expenditure, you want to move to an operating expense so that the merchants can, generally afford them. So with that in mind, we kind of think that, while pay at the table is always a little bit slow on the uptick in the U.S., well, I say pay table, I mean traditional European pay at the table, where you're bringing a physical purpose-built device to the table and handing it to a patron to complete a transaction. I think, we're going to see in the U.S. kind of a leapfrog over the traditional European pay to table with these kind of high CapEx devices. And you're going to see kind of a QR code text to pay type of solution that is a more consumer device driven. I think that's going to be the real primary driver that you're going to see as far as a post-COVID type of solution is concerned. I mean, I was the one a few years ago talking about how dead QR codes are, and QR codes aren't going to be a piece of any significant solution moving forward. And then in came COVID, and we had to have a solution in place immediately that would allow people to be able to pay or connect to a particular tab in a restaurant or whatever, and then pay on their phone and complete the transaction that way. And QR codes made a lot of sense because it was there. Existing printers could print QR codes very easily. It just is something that you could do turnkey with a software update overnight. And that again speaks to the importance of a cloud or a hybrid point of sale that can update an entire base like that. So I think, that's certainly something that we're going to see, I think, move ahead of traditional pay at the table that you see kind of universally across the other parts of the world. And then the other parts of that too, where you have device maintenance, you have cleaning post-COVID, you have to wipe these devices down. And then I think the offered gratuity flow is kind of what hurt that adoption in the U.S. because in a lot of cases you have a server kind of waiting around while you enter a tip in front of them, and that can always be a little bit awkward. In Europe, they don't generally have to deal with that type of gratuity issue. So I think that was part of the disconnect in the U.S., and you're going to see that kind of resolve itself with these consumer device-driven solutions. So I think that's going to be a big proponent. I think cash is the demise of cash, or at least the slowdown of cash. I think we'll have cash at least in some degree for the foreseeable future, but I think you're going to see a faster decline in the use of cash. It's kind of, it's a dumb payment. There's no data associated with a cash-based payment, so it's an anonymous payment that persons generally, don't like in that regard, unless, you have other reasons to take cash, and then, we probably don't want to talk about those on an integrated payments panel, but I think that for the most part, you're going to see the downfall the mitigation of cash usage across merchants, just because you're able to get data-driven exports outside of integrated payments and consumer-driven payment platforms.
Yeah, all really great points. And I think the theme that I'm kind of hearing in these new solutions is that we're trying to eliminate human interaction. We're trying to make everything as contactless as possible. So with that being said, our industry especially is a very trade show focused industry, lots of travel, lots of face-to-face kind of interaction to make these business deals. Mm-hmm. How do you guys think that that's going to, be in the future? Do you think that our business specifically will ever go back to normal? Andrew, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's the $1 million question right now. I think we will go back to some sense of normalcy, but I don't think it'll ever be back to where it was before COVID. I think, it'll be a hybrid of sorts. You're always going to have the folks that, once the vaccine's out and we kind of get past this, that are going to want a face-to-face meeting. There's the larger customer that you feel a need to go meet with face-to-face. The potential customer that's a larger customer that you want to go sit down across the table from them and meet with them. But I mean, this is definitely it's changed my entire opinion on it. I mean, I tell you, before COVID, even though I'm not that old, I had kind of had an old school mentality about all of that, and my opinion's completely changed on the working virtually and the productivity that comes from that, and so we've made it work with doing Zoom meetings with potential customers and current customers, and I see that continuing on even after COVID's kind of more in our past. And as far as trade shows go, I think it's going to be the same deal. I think they're going to have trade shows again. I think people will be there in person, but I think they're going to offer another option of attending a trade show online. I think that they'll figure out a way to offer an online experience for people for trade shows, but then also offer the in-person trade show as well. So, a lot to kind of figure out and see in the future with that, but I definitely don't think it'll ever get back to where we were before COVID.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the threshold, as you said, Andrew, I think the threshold for what is going to warrant travel is going to be much higher. So I think that while there will be travel post-COVID, I think that you're going to have a lot more of Zoom meetings that would have been in 2019, 2018, previously an in-person event. I think it was Bill Gates last week that said that he expects post-COVID, they had business travel drop to 50% of where it was the year before. And then in office, basically in office participation would be around 30% of where it was. So I think I think I kind of agree with that assessment. And you're just not going to have, it's never going to go back to the way it was, 8-9 months ago.
Agreed. And let's be honest, companies and, they're saving money on less travel, less office expenses. So it'll definitely be different. Matt, coming from a VAR where you guys are out in the field and, kind of walking through these merchants through a install, what does that look like for you guys? What are your field technicians doing as far as procedures?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously right now we're following all guidelines. We are out in the field. We do have to maintain support. So, face masks everywhere. It's, hand washing, sanitizing. It's that is obviously we're maintaining that. But to back up before even we get to being able to service a customer, it's the sales cycle. And yes, all these things, these technologies that we're leveraging, we're doing this right now on GoToMeeting. I mean, it's stuff that's going to stick around. And, coming into this, my initial reaction to it was, I'm prepared for this. I actually enjoy, doing all these things remote. I feel like a couple weeks in, I was like, I can do my job like this forever. Come to realize the times that I've needed to go out on site to actually meet with somebody face to face, those have come up. The main thing for me with my role is I need to go look at a site. I need to sometimes, I'm a visual learner in general. So being able to walk into a restaurant and say, show me your operations, show me your challenges so that I can present a solution to those. It's hard to do that over the phone. Let's do a FaceTime, walk me around your restaurant and show me your challenges. That's just, it's a bit more awkward. So getting back to some of that is something I'm looking forward to personally, but around that, I think you plug in the ability to be remote. Contracts are all delivered digitally these days. That's not going to go away. That's only going to grow. I think the days of going and sitting down with a pen and a paper to have somebody sign it and write you a check, that's gone. We're doing our payments via ACH. We're doing our contracts via DocuSign and things like that, or Adobe Sign. Those are here to stay for sure. The big question is that I've been wanting to know is, and I don't have an answer to this, but we look at the actual expenses, like you said. One of them is not just office expenses, but actually the square footage that you're paying for. Do you need that square footage anymore? Are we in a position and are we in a place where we can say, 25% of the staff that I had in an office before every day, 9 to 5, can now actually work from home remotely. So 25% of my office space can shrink. There's some limitations as a VAR. Talking about field service, I have to carry spare parts inventory. I have to have warehousing space. I have to have space to stage systems, space to train new customers at. But is that something that's going to happen? Is that something that we're going to look to do in order to, again, further cut some costs and drive some more profit back into our businesses? So those are all fun questions. I don't know what anybody else thinks about office space, but that's something that's been on my mind.
I've definitely thought of that, Matt, as well. And, I remember I say back in the day, but I guess it's more pre-COVID. It was back in the day. But, several customers would ask, well, do you have an office? Where's your closest office? Is that even going to be brought up anymore? Is that even going to be something that is important to a potential customer, as if I have a physical office close to them? Or is it just good enough that I've got field techs that I deploy out of their houses, that are within an hour or whatever from their site? So I agree. I mean, we're assessing all that here. We're a national company, and so we've already got offices around the country, but are we adding new offices? I mean, at this point, we're kind of holding back and looking to see what happens.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the remote work kind of gives you the flexibility, like you said, to have field techs across the country, but not have to have a designated office space for them. So speaking of that, and this is a question that I just like to ask everybody, everyone has kind of a different opinion, but do you have plans to go back to the office, and how has your adjustment been to COVID and remote work, and if you are back in the office, what does that look like for you? So Linda, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm working remote, and I've been lucky in the tech industry that we're able to do that. Cyberlink in general has offices globally, and some areas, for example, like Taipei, have not been hit as hard with COVID, so they're still going into an office. Everybody in the US is working remote still. Our priority is like the safety and the health of all of our employees. So we're doing really great working remote. We're making sure to have video conferences, still connecting with everybody. I think that part of having human interaction is innate. As much as like in the beginning, kind of what Matt said, like it was nice working completely remote and I was thriving at a point. And then I'm like, it would be nice to go grab coffee with somebody instead of just being behind a screen. So we do definitely plan to go back into an office. How that's going to look like, I'm assuming is going to be kind of like a smaller percentage. It'll be like a hybrid in the beginning, and that's when there's treatment and there's a vaccine. Smaller groups of people will go and meet. Maybe we'll meet outdoors too, at a restaurant or a cafe, just to connect and meet. And we'll definitely go ahead and implement mask checks and temperature checks and contactless access control. It's going to be probably like a new world in the beginning for the first few years, but I do have hope maybe in like 5 to 10 years, or when my kids are older, there's going to be normalcy back to us hugging each other and being in an elevator, in a crammed elevator, not being nervous that something is going to happen to us.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're probably the first person I've heard say 5 to 10 years. So many people are not thinking that far ahead, but that could be the reality of it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for this conversation today. We hope you all enjoyed our discussion. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so that you never miss an episode. We'd also appreciate if you'd rate us wherever you find your podcast. The more stars, the better. And if you'd like to learn more best practices for VARs and ISVs in the point of sale channel, check out the RSPA blog. You can find it at gorspa.org, then by clicking the RSPA blog. Before we go, thanks again to Matt, Linda, Justin, and Andrew for sharing their wisdom today. Thanks also to the RSPA marketing manager, Chris Arnold, for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thank you so much for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members and the point of sale ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, please visit the website at gorspa.org. Bye, everyone.